Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew says a Winnipeg serial killer who was sentenced on Wednesday should never be free again. Jeremy Skibitsky was sentenced to a mandatory life sentence with no chance for parole for 25 years in the homicides of Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, Rebecca Contois, and Mushkode Bizhike Ikwe, or Buffalo Woman. During an unrelated news conference, Kinew thanked the families on Thursday and said he personally called them and other advocates after the sentencing. Kinew says the families did something incredibly important for the province and the country. The Manitoba Premier says he went for a run with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on Thursday morning and provided the PM an update on the landfill search. Kinew is walking through the Prairie Green landfill today. An announcement on further ways to prevent similar homicides from happening in the future is coming next week. The Premier was also repeatedly pressed about a Supreme Court ruling that allows for multiple murder convictions to be served concurrently rather than consecutively.
So I have to respect the justice system, the administration of justice as handled by people like Justice Royale. I also have a tremendous amount of respect for the Supreme Court of Canada. What I would say in response to the issue that you're trying to press is that this person can never be allowed to see the light of day as a free person in our country again. The crimes that were committed, the terrible actions which are now part of this person's vocabulary, means that they can never be free again. And I'm not entertaining exceptions to that. So we spoke to family members yesterday, and they said we need to remember this. When this person applies for parole in the future, this needs to be reminded of people entertaining those hearings and stuff like that. I hope I'm not overstepping here by saying that, but I don't think there's too many Manitobans who are going to argue with me when I say this person can never be free again.
The Six Nations Police Service has charged a 58-year-old man with possessing child pornography. In a press release, police say the Six Nations resident appeared in court Wednesday and is being held in custody pending a bail hearing. Charges stem from a joint investigation between Six Nations Police and the Ontario Provincial Police. Police say further charges may be forthcoming, but no further information will be released due to a court-ordered publication ban. In a rare move, Indigenous Services Canada issued a news release calling the news disturbing and pledging to support the community. The Trondak-Gwitchin First Nation in Dawson City, Yukon recently unveiled a new statue honoring a well-respected chief. The statue pays tribute to the late Chief Isaac of the Han Nation, one of the Han Nation's most influential leaders. Isaac led his people during the 19th century Klondike Gold Rush, which saw 30,000 stampeders descend upon their traditional territory. The concrete and metal statue was gifted to the First Nation by M2 Mining, a Placer mining company. Darren Taylor is the chief of the Trondak-Gwitchin First Nation.
He really sets the stage in regards to our presence here and in the community today and into the future. Through his vision and his approach and his tact. I mean, those are things that we carry this day in our own administration in the context of how we engage with settlers and federal and territorial governments and municipal governments to ensure that our rights, titles, and interests are still identified.
Time for a quick break, but before we do, Sav Jonza brings us this quick look at this exclusive story about hip-hop artist Dreezes, coming to you soon on APTN National News.
Multi-award-winning hip-hop artist Dreezes says accounts impersonating him are popping up across social media platforms. They're trying to steal money from his fans, and some are going as far as creating deepfakes, videos made to look like him by fraudsters using generative artificial intelligence.
So for me, I could see the mouth.
Yeah.
Like it was definitely manipulated. And yeah, the way the eyes are kind of, it was different. It was so weird to me. It's like, it was almost like seeing a robot version of myself, you know, and it freaked me out.
That exclusive story will be coming to you soon on APTN National News.
Welcome back. A big milestone coming up for APTN. This weekend marks 25 years since the network went live to air. But as TR Wheatley shows us now, the dream and vision of APTN started in the early 1980s.
Well, here we are, Jim.
Yeah, well, thank you. Always great to come home.
After many moons away, Jim Compton, one of APTN's founding fathers, is back for a walk down memory lane.
Okay, you guys get to work. If I look at the people that are sitting down here, maybe get a cutaway of that.
Even in the interview seat, Compton, a former journalist and the first director of programming here, doing what he knows best, wanting to tell a story.
We started out in 1997 to train them under the Aboriginal Broadcast Training Initiative in anticipation. And we trained them in journalism, we trained them in camera work, we trained them in editing, presentation, all that stuff.
Fast forward, winter 1998.
November 12th and 13th may go down in the history of Aboriginal television as two very important days.
Heavy hitters in the Indigenous community were meeting with the Canadian Radio, Television and Telecommunications Commission, or the CRTC.
We had just come off the Royal Commission on Aboriginal peoples. It called for a bigger voice for Indigenous people, and we had a Northern network, which is key. I mean, the North, through the communication societies, had that pull with CRTC.
The Aboriginal People's Television Network will be the first of its kind anywhere.
September 1st, 1999.
Yeah. So today we're partying like it's 1999 again. We're celebrating that day.
Do I remember that day? When I was driving here, I was thinking, wow. I remember driving the same route because I live at the same house.
We enter the new millennium on a journey in a world of technology.
We started off in a spiritual way. I know my dad, Tabasanakwat, he gave a pipe to APTN, and that pipe sits in the boardroom of APTN. And so that pipe has carried us 25 years, and I think it'll carry us another 100. We smoked this on the opening day.
Compton's talking about a 3-hour live broadcast from the historic Fork site here in Winnipeg.
Beamed by satellite into homes all across Canada.
It included a concert with performances from all the who's who of the 90s.
Top Hat Singers is a brand new choral.
So yeah, it was all very exciting, heart thumping too. I mean, you know, going live and just hoping that everything went off without a hitch, and it did, except for the end. But we won't talk about that.
Let's start off by, Jennifer, maybe you telling me where you're from.
I'm from a small community in Northern Ontario called Chapleau.
Back then, Jennifer David was the director of communications. She is now an APTN board member.
You know, like any baby that's born, you're, carefully watching over it to make sure it survives. In those early years, it really was a kind of crazy time. But I don't think any of us doubted that there was success in the future for APTN. We knew there was a long road.
David even wrote a book about the launch called Original People, Original Television. It's being re-released this month for APTN 25.
25 is still not that old. I mean, if it was a person, they could finally rent a car. Indigenous issues, especially since the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, are only becoming more prominent. And with things like the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act, self-determination, Supreme Court cases, there's just going to be more and more need for APTN to provide the kind of critical voice and analysis so that Canadians can understand these issues.
Work anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Wayne McKenzie, another day one OG, doing life here intentionally and purposefully.
For those that don't know, APTN wasn't an accident for me. It wasn't me wandering off. I set my sights on a national television network for Indigenous programming since about 1981 or 82.
Wow. Very impressive, very impressive.
Yeah, well, our humble abode.
Yeah.
Lit up for noon.
Yeah. Well, state of the art.
Compton visits the studio for the first time with another APTN original, producer Bruce Spence.
Maybe this is the dream I was dreaming about. You know, like your studio here, I dreamt about a Indigenous person with braids, right, reading the news, and I was watching it on TV, and my heart just went through the roof. Oh, yeah.
Long hair?
Yes.
Cute hair,
Yes,
long hair,
yes,
Rose.
yes, yeah. Hey, how you doing? Love your stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
How you been?
Good, good.
Nice story.
Sandra Seidel is our lineup producer now. She was one of the original students Compton and others trained in anticipation for this.
I'm Carol Adams. My background is Cree and Dene, originally from northern Saskatchewan. I'm your host for Envision News. In fact, the majority of our news, programming, and technical staff is of First Nations, Métis, or Inuit ancestry.
So Sandra,
I hear you're one of the OGs here. Heck yeah. One of the originals.
Certainly it's about telling our stories, but it's also about creating an industry and creating jobs for the people.
An industry that wasn't always easy and often required jumping through hoops.
There was a lot of backlash, but this was after we started, right? I think that a lot of the interveners, broadcasters, didn't think we were going to get it. They didn't realize the amount of work and support that we had garnered to get the network up and running.
History that many aren't aware of, including some of our newer and much younger staff in the newsroom.
So Sierra, what you working on?
I'm working on my APTN languages story.
So I'm working on the APTN 25th. I wanted to ask you, where were you on September 1st, 1999?
Not on this earth yet.
In fact, Compton says if you weren't around in the beginning, you wouldn't know of the struggle of the early years, nor should you, he says, because the only way forward is up.
Our goal, our number one goal, is to inspire.
Thank you for being an essential part of the journey, for helping us reach this incredible milestone. Cool! What else do we get?
Go inside this APTN 25th anniversary mug. So good.
Cheers to 25!
T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Great story, TR. Thanks for that. Well, as APTN celebrates this milestone, there's also some big news on the horizon as well. More on that coming up after the break. Welcome back. Here's a look at your current conditions. Sunny and 9 in Fredericton, 17 in Halifax. Cloudy and 14 in Kuujjuaq and Nain. 21 in Montreal, 19 in Val-d'Or. Sunny and 21 in Sault Ste. Marie, cloudy and 18 in North Bay. 18 in Thunder Bay, cloud and 15 in Sioux Lookout. Showers and 14 in God's Lake. Sun's out and 17 in Norway House. 19 in Winnipeg, sunny and 18 in Dauphin. 17 in Regina, cloudy and 14 in Saskatoon. 16 in Meadow Lake and La Ronge. Oh, jeez. In northern Alberta, sunny and 20 in High Level, showers and 19 in Fort Chipewyan. 25 and sunny in Edmonton, sun's out and 29 in Lethbridge. 22 and sunny skies in Vancouver, 31 in Kamloops. 25 in Prince George, 24 in Smithers. 9 in Old Crow, showers and 16 in Whitehorse. 17 in Yellowknife, 15 with showers in Norman Wells. Plus 1 in Sax Harbor, cloudy and 8 in Polituck. 8 with rain in Chesterfield and Whale Cove. 3 with snow in Resolute, 8 in Joe Haven. Sorry, I was choking on my Timbit there. Well, ahead of APTN's 25th anniversary, we have some exciting news to share. On September 1st, our new channel, APTN Languages, is set to launch. The channel will bring 24/7 Indigenous language programming to television screens across Turtle Island. Reporter Sierra Bettens brings you all the details.
Some people have a 5-year plan.
My name is Pat Ningwants.
Pat Ningwants, an Anishinaabe language keeper and educator, has a 50-year vision. It has to do with the revitalization of Indigenous languages.
5 years just goes like that. 50 years is a better way to look at our time here. Maybe even 100 years. What do we want our language to be 100 years from now?
In that half-century vision, she says broadcasters like APTN have a role to play.
You make movies. Write the scripts in Ojibwe or Cree, Dakota, so you're getting the real language, and train people who are fluent to act while we're still alive.
That's where APTN Languages comes in. In May, the CRTC gave APTN the green light to launch a new Indigenous Languages channel. On September 1st, APTN's 4 channels will be consolidated into 2, one with programming in English and French, and another, APTN Languages, completely dedicated to Indigenous languages.
This content is going to be made available to anyone who has a cable subscription across Turtle Island. And that means people who are from the far north, who are living down south in communities, can stay attached and connected to their language and their culture through APTN.
Since its inception in 1999, Omulus says APTN has broadcasted programming in 54 Indigenous languages. During the 2010 Winter Olympics, APTN's Rick Harp was tasked with hosting the world's first Indigenous language coverage of the event.
And for the last 17 days, a small army of APTN reporters, producers, cameramen, and technical people have done their part as they've roamed Vancouver covering these Olympic Winter Games.
The network found fluent speakers of 8 different languages and gave them a crash course in broadcasting.
There was just a real air, I think, a real buzz around that space, because we knew we were taking on something that at a scale and an intensity we had never quite done before, and I think we rose to the challenge, and I think we all felt a great sense of pride at having done it, at having made it through.
That paved the way for broadcaster Clarence Iron to call the shots on Hockey Night in Canada in Cree the following decade. Iron, who kept his Plains Cree language even through residential school, said the opportunity fulfilled a lifelong dream.
When you hear somebody speak your own language, it's alive. There's something there. It's hard to describe, but when you start listening to people that speak your own language, things starts happening. It's very amazing.
Now, in APTN's 25th year, Indigenous language programming will find a 24/7 home on APTN Languages.
This September, APTN is launching APTN Languages, a brand new channel dedicated to programs in Indigenous languages.
The channel's September schedule will bring programming in 18 Indigenous languages. The schedule begins with Atlantic region languages like Mi'kmaq, then heads north with programming in Innu and Inuktitut. It continues to the prairies with the Anishinaabe, Cree, and Dene, and ends with West Coast languages like Salishan. The debut schedule includes Ananas Tent, a children's series about Inuit culture, which will air in Inuktitut. Producer Louise Flaherty says the show has been vital in exposing children to Inuktitut and Inuit culture.
Very important for APTN to air Indigenous languages and Inuktitut, because you can, once you take a film and it's there forever, right? Even as a producer, creator, when we pass on, that content is still there.
On October 13th, the Anishinaabe dub of Star Wars: A New Hope will premiere on APTN Languages. Ningwants, the lead translator on the film, hopes to see more original language content on the channel. a goal Omulus shares.
So rather than just versioning programs in Indigenous languages, where we want to go is producing programs in Indigenous languages with speakers doing the roles from beginning to end.
As language keepers like Ningguans nurture more fluent speakers, she says broadcasters like APTN Languages can help immortalize the language for future generations.
Train those who are learning the language to sound very much like us while they're acting, so that, because that's going to be what's going to be heard 50 years from now, 100 years from now.
APTN Languages launches on September 1st on cable and satellite services across the country. Check with your TV provider to find out how you can tune in. Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Exciting stuff, less than 48 hours away. Well, that's all the time we have for your first look at the news for this Friday, August 30th. Where has the summer gone? For news anytime, though, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca, and we'll be back here at 6 p.m. Eastern Time for your APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy McGuitch, thanks for being with us. Have a great afternoon.